what felt right about this year, the teaching, the coaching. I mean, I'll be honest, I forgot that the coaching hadn't already been announced and happened once you announced that the teaching was going to be the last year. So.
I know. Well, to be honest with you, there was a retirement incentive that the district had given, and had that not happened, I don't know if I would have retired this year, but financially it just made sense. And then after this spring, it kind of just, and this whole shelter-in-place COVID stuff kind of solidified the decision, as awful as it was, but yeah.
In terms of, I mean, we were just chatting before we started this official interview here, I guess, but so many stories, and it's so fun to look back and kind of chat about them, and you start to remember a lot more of them, I imagine, as this becomes a little bit more real and stuff like that. It's been a heck of a fun run.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's just been so much fun. I at one point, I talked about the fact that we should have, and Linda, Paul, and I joked a little bit about this, that we should have kept diaries and written a book just about bus trips alone. I mean, just everything that we experienced on bus trips, and really some of the most humorous and best memories oftentimes are on the bus rides, good and bad, but just developing the relationships that you have with kids, and being able to be with them in the highs and lows, and sharing those times. I was just thinking about that this morning, is that missing, it sounds really weird, but missing getting on the bus, and just that anticipation and excitement about being able to compete. So yeah, lots of good times.
We'll talk Helena High specifically in a second, but Terry and Shelby were kind of those, it seems like those coaches have those stepping stones to getting somewhere. And what do you remember about the learning lessons, I guess, in two smaller towns? One really small one, and then getting a little bit bigger as it gets up to Shelby.
Oh, Richie, I think one thing that's so different now with teaching and going into teaching is that when we first went in, you just did everything and you didn't question it. So you were chaperoning dances or taking tickets, or when I was in Terry, I taught elementary music. So I started out teaching K through 5 and social studies, and then I coached everything. And so that was just an expectation. But one of the things I do remember about that's so different, like in Terry and Shelby, is that as a head track coach or a head coach there, especially track, you coached everything. You coached every event. And then I don't know how to this day, I mean, I try to think back to my practices. It was like, how in the world did I ever get around to everyone and try to make sure they were doing the same things? And so I did hear some stories later on with girls telling me, oh, did you really think they went for that run? Do you want to know where they really went? So, yeah, I mean, so the knowledge in track, you just have to know so much about all these events. So I was pretty spoiled when I came here, because now you could just focus. I mean, you have still that knowledge, but you could really focus on those events that you're coaching, rather than, trying to deal with everything.
Just for me, when was the first year here?
I was here in 92.
92,
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And
Yep.
volleyball is kind of college basketball player and all this, and coaching basketball, but like you said, when you coach everything at the smaller schools, you almost get to pick when you move to a bigger school, and you can just focus on that one for the time.
Right, yeah, it's definitely a different ball game, I started out, my first year here, I was sophomore volleyball coach, and then moved into the head position, and then I was assistant coach under Linda and Heather for the first part of track. And so, yeah, it is just a different ball game. I mean, the kids, though, are the same, I think, regardless. I think the big difference at AA is you just have, obviously, more athletes. I think sometimes our AA athletes are pretty spoiled, and you know this. I mean, when you're in a small school, you do everything, and you don't complain. And I mean, you run the relay, you're in a zillion events, you just do it because you have to. I hear they get a little spoiled sometimes, but lots of fun.
You had some very specialized ones. I haven't come up with the total number of state champions yet. That's on the homework list for this afternoon.
Yeah.
A lot of those, though, that like I said, when we were just chatting before hitting record on this, you just start to remember some of those. And
Right.
the Shannons when you weren't quite a head coach yet, or
Right.
even coming up to the last couple of years, the Odessa Zents last
Right.
year, obviously,
Right.
winning a couple of them.
Right.
And it doesn't even have to be the state championship athletes either that make those lasting memories.
Well, Linda and I were talking, and I think with track, there's some amazing performances, and we had a string of, for I don't know how many years in a row, that we had a state champion pole vaulter, because we were fortunate to have Doug LeBrun, and he started our program, and so we had a state champion every year for I don't know how many years. But you know what? Sometimes your best memories are kids who track is their thing, and maybe they've tried to go out for other sports and maybe been cut, and their big thing is to get a letter, or to have a fair jump in the long jump pit, or so those types of memories are just as sweet. Seeing those athletes experience success and just being a part of a team. I think for girls especially, and I'm not saying it's not important for boys, but being on a team and being a part of something is a huge deal. And I think that's what was a little bit hard about this spring, was that, just that anticipation and everybody looking forward to being together, because they weren't even able to be together. And so I really do think some of your best memories aren't necessarily those amazing performances. Obviously, those mean a lot, and you'll always remember them. But yeah, just being able to work with all different kinds of kids and helping them find their event. We would have freshmen come, Coach Will, what should I do? I was like, okay, well, we'll help you find something. Yeah, so yeah.
Sounds like freshmen.
It does, yeah.
I'll put you on the spot. Doesn't have to be a Helena High athlete. Maybe it's more in the back of your mind, I guess, but that one accomplishment, finish, mark, whatever, that just dropped your jaw the most in that time span. We've had a lot of great statewide athletes. Helena High's had their own great athletes.
I know.
Is there any one where you said,
I don't know if this one necessarily dropped my jaw, but when Carly Smedella was able to win her 400, that was just so awesome for her and for all of us, just because of the competition. And you and I have talked about this before, but just because of the competition and everything, all the events surrounding. I mean, she'd taken second and broke the state record, for heaven's sakes, and so really, I was just so happy for her to finally be able to say, I'm a state champion in that race, because she was a pretty dominant, pretty darn good athlete for us. Yeah, I mean, I've had others, but last year that was fun too, with Jamie picking up the javelin for the first time. So that was fun. If we would have had 2 more weeks, I think she would have won. But yeah, that's hard. I mean, with Shannon Agee, watching her jump and set a national record, pretty awesome. We had a relay, and this was when I was assistant coach, but we were just thinking about the kids that were on that relay, and that was this relay now. Of those 4 that were on the relay, 2 were medical doctors, 1 is a professor at MSU, and the other is doing well in her career too. But I mean, so those are the kind of things, it's like the caliber of kids that we have had. Just smart, talented, just awesome young ladies.
For you and Linda, then, the friendship and relationship there has spanned forever.
Yeah.
To get to kind of, quote unquote, sail off into this sunset together, that makes it fun.
Yeah, yeah. No, we've experienced a lot of fun things. I mean, from winning state in 2000 in Bozeman, to, yeah, just a lot of things. And just that friendship that we've had, and I guess, as a head coach and just as a friend in general, you always want somebody who is loyal and that has your back, and for sure, regardless of what happened, And you know, obviously there's going to be issues and things that you deal with. She always had my back, and I hope that she feels like I always had her back too. And we'll be good friends for forever, yeah.
It's also strange though, the two of you, Tony a few years ago, Coach Peterson now at the women's I mean, like, we're having to learn this whole new crop of what's going on around here.
Yeah,
Lucky to have people that were in positions for that long. In my opinion, this school.
Yeah, one of the things that we've always wanted is to have good women coaching our athletes. I just really think that's important, to have good female role models. And so we always tried to recruit, you know, kids coming out of college. And I'm not saying men can't coach women, I'm not saying that, but there's just something about having women coaches. But it's hard to find women head coaches. And for one thing, with families, and you need to have a supportive spouse, which I was really blessed, have a very supportive spouse. And then when kids come into the picture and whatever. So it's a lot more difficult to do that. So I'm really hoping that we see that, you know, that we do see young women want to step up. I mean, you know, Lindsay obviously is doing a great job in our volleyball program. And so I really want to see that continue.
Final question for me, if there's anything you want to add, but so what's that advice then to this next generation? We don't see coaches stick around anymore, and it's a series of stories we've done statewide at every level, AA all the way down. Same thing with the officials, obviously, and there's a lot that goes into it. What's your advice to that kid that's out there right now thinking about taking on teaching, coaching, and hoping to have a lasting career in it?
Well, I've always felt that teaching is almost like a calling. I mean, I really feel, it sounds maybe corny, but I don't think it is. I think if you go into it with the idea that, you know, this is just my job, then I don't think you're going to get involved in the school. So I would say that, first of all, if you're going to be a teacher, you just, you know, follow your heart and go for it. I mean, I've just been so blessed, and you have that passion of developing those relationships with the kids, and you just can't see it. It's not a typical job. I mean, 2 weeks ago, or last Sunday was the first Sunday when I wasn't working on my computer, or either grading or getting ready, you know, and Marv was like, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong?" And I'm not, there's a lot of different jobs that's the same thing, but I think with coaching and teaching, you do have to have that passion, because it's not easy. I mean, you're going to deal with a lot of parental pressure and, you know, all that kind of stuff that comes along with it, and now you have, you know, the club involvement and all that kind of stuff. So it's so different than when I first started from that standpoint. But you've got to have some tough skin, and you just got to know that it's not going to be pretty sometimes, but it's worth it. It really is. And I think that's why some people end up leaving, is because they find out, I can't do this. This is not what I signed up for. And I get that. But, and again, like I alluded to before, is if you're in a relationship, your partner needs to be supportive, because you're gone a lot and not there and working on other stuff. So fortunately, we both shared the same passion, and so did our girls. So I was pretty blessed with that. But
they've all got to be pretty pumped though right now, right? This is a lot more you time.
I know. Maybe, yeah. Hopefully they are, yeah. No, it'll be, yeah. It was good. So yeah, I don't regret the decision ever to go into teaching and coaching.